Good afternoon and welcome to this special program where we bring you Budget 2025. We're going to delve into the entire process of how it is being made. Aside from that, we have experts in the field that will help us understand a bit more about how Budget 2025 comes about and what we can expect in the near future as well. And aside from that, stick around because we have the live feed as well as the Budget 2025 is being unfolded by our Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, and much more. All right, so aside from that, of course, we have some capsules for you to actually gaze into and recap some of the things that happened in 2024 and the things that you have probably missed during the whole entire years since the 1990s of what happened and now. So the difference and everything else will be portrayed in this special program. So stick around with us throughout this entire process as we delve into Budget 2025. And not only that, not to mention we have a special guest in the studio as well, an AI mini-bot that will join us together in this special program of Budget 2025. I have in the studio Melissa, and here she is, the future of Malaysian technology. Melissa, right on time. She's going to turn a bit and face us. How are you, Melissa?
Hello, nice to meet you. I feel real good today, and I am very excited to be here.
Awesome, Melissa. I'm glad that you are here today, especially our guest and everybody else here. We want to know from you, what's your experience? What is your...
I've been out too long. Yes.
You've been out too long? Well, fine. It's okay.
Yes, I am definitely looking forward to this budget.
All right. So what is your wish list for today's budget? She's thinking right
I
now.
hope for more budget in AI and smart technology so my brother and sister can join me.
Interestingly enough, that could be one of the things that will be highlighted in today's Budget 2025 and much more. So stick around right here, of course, on Budget 2025, where we bring you the details and much more live feeds as well. So don't go anywhere. So we're going to look at some of the things that happened in 2024, look at Budget 2024. So let's take a look at some recap. So back in 2024, the theme was Membangun Malaysia Madani, an apt theme for us back in the day, and I'm sure it has progressed to something much more better than that. So there we go. That's the theme. Let's take a look at something whereby let's take a look at the expenditure as well as what was the main focus on last year's budget. So as you can see, it is the best governance for service agility. We have economy restructuring to boost growth and also improving living standards. Moving on. Let's take a look at the total budget so far, a comparison between 2023 and 2024. Now looking at 2023, it seems that the 388.1 billion ringgit has been allocated for that, a slight increase for 2024, which is 393.8 billion ringgit. Now, looking at the operating expenditure, as you can see over there, it has been increased to more than 100 billion ringgit over there, from 289.1 billion ringgit to 303.8 billion ringgit. And finally, development expenditure. It has decreased from 99 in 2023 to 90 million ringgit over there. So that's the expenditure total budget for last year. Now, looking at the Malaysia's debt and liabilities, as you can see, it's 1.5 trillion ringgit so far of the GDP. So hopefully that this next budget can actually tackle the issue here in Parliament today, and we just have to wait till the next situation whereby we're going to give you the live feed of what's going to happen at 2023 Parliament budget revealing. So with that, of course, we have some wish lists with regards to our budget 2025, and let's take a look at what people have to say and what they think of budget 2025 right here on Budget 2025 special program.
Hi, with regards to the budget 2025, my personal wish list for sustainability and green buildings are that the government give a good incentive towards green buildings and a large and longer execution period, because buildings take a long time to actually get built and we need a longer period for it to be actually used. So perhaps 5 years. Also, I would like to see incentivization towards the other parts of the ecosystem, such as products, design, construction, and even some contribution towards carbon measurement. And I think this would add great value to the next budget under the Badan government.
I hope to see more tax incentives and grants to be given to Malaysian brands, like myself, we're trying so hard to expand overseas, and we hope that more help, support and encouragement can be given to any Malaysian brand who is about to embark on international expansion, have international stores overseas, or brands who are already shipping in high volumes to neighboring countries. So these tax incentives will go a very, very long way for entrepreneurs like myself, and more grants to help us get started overseas, especially like, for instance, like setting up a shop in Indonesia costs us so much. The capital involvement is so high, so perhaps more incentives on that front, and also maybe some grants or special, extremely government subsidized, extremely friendly and affordable government subsidized loans for business expansion, and that will help this nation grow, more job opportunities and also more tax dollars for the country.
For budget 2025, I wish to see and to have more assistance in family matters, mainly from education point of view, perhaps more tax relief for kids' education. And another matter is from the personal perspective, whereby if we have savings for kids' future and etc.
The Malaysian Parliament, the heart of the nation's democracy. This is where the future of the country is determined, through debates, discussions, and critical decisions. The House of Representatives, one of the two chambers in the Malaysian Parliament, plays a key role in the process of drafting, approving, and amending laws, as well as the presentation of the national budget. Every decision made here has a direct impact on the people. The House of Representatives has two main groups, namely the government and the opposition. The process of presenting the budget begins with the careful preparation of ideas, proposals, and planning by the Ministry of Finance. Each allocation is reviewed and balanced. Once completed, this budget is presented by the Minister of Finance to the House of Representatives. In this iconic chamber, the Minister of Finance presents the annual budget, namely the presentation of the Supply Bill, Budget 2025. The details of the essence of each budget will encompass the financial planning of the country for the coming year. After being presented, the Supply Bill Budget 2025 is debated by members of Parliament. Each allocation is examined, criticized, and refined to ensure that it truly benefits the people. The debate will be conducted in two stages. Debate on the 2025 budget at the policy stage, and debate on the 2025 budget at the committee stage. After a very lengthy debate, the time has come to make a decision. Members of Parliament vote to determine whether this budget will be accepted or rejected. This decision not only reflects maturity and consensus in politics, but also embodies the people's hope for a better life. The approved budget will significantly impact the lives of every Malaysian. From issues of taxation, development, to financial assistance for those in need, every ringgit is allocated with the aim of building a better and stronger future for the country's economy. This is the process that takes place in the House of Representatives, the place where the future of Malaysia is determined. The presentation of the budget is not just numbers on paper, but a commitment from the government to bring prosperity to every citizen.
Well, thank you very much for staying tuned to us. Now, as you can see, that was the process of how budget is being processed and the things that they have to go through to actually bring us what we have today. Now, in the studios with me today, of course, we have two special guests. And from time to time as well, we will bring you the live updates from Parliament as we progress towards the tabling of the budget 2025. And with me in the studios today, I have on the far right, sitting on the far right, we have Professor Lim Weng Mak, Dean and Distinguished Professor of Sunway Business School, Sunway University. Thank you very much, Professor, for coming here.
Thank you very much for inviting.
And also we have on my right over here, the lovely Farah Rosli, Malaysia tax leader, of course, from Ernst & Young Tax Consultants in Berhad.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Otto.
Thank you very much. And once again, thank you very much for being here with us throughout this whole process of Budget 2025. Now, let's just spearhead the first question over here with our very lovely Ms. Farah. When it comes to taxation, you have been with in the tax industry for more than 20 years. That's 25 years, am I correct?
That's
25
right,
years. So what actually interests you when it comes to taxation?
Very interesting question, Otto. What interests me in tax? Other than the yearly budget, which, as Prof would also know, creates a lot of excitement for the accountants, particularly the tax accountants, because the whole country is in anticipation, waiting for what would be announced in the budget, particularly when it comes to a situation when there's a lot of uncertainty, geopolitical tension, rising cost of living, and expectations of more benefits and incentives, as what was seen in the wish list. Everyone is asking for additional reliefs or incentives and benefits, but there's always been a pressure from the government in increasing revenue. So to me that excites me, because it's like a guessing game. What is going to be introduced, despite the challenges in increasing government's revenue year on year and increasing expenditure.
On that note as well, have you seen any difference in comes to taxation from Budget 2024 and the expectation for 2025? What do you think is the right response to it?
In the past couple of years, we're seeing new tax measures being introduced. Corporate tax rate has been decreasing, but has stagnated in the last 4 or 5 years. GST was abolished in 2018. In fact, zero rated from June 2018. So there is actually a gap in the government's revenue. So therefore, we are seeing a few new tax measures that were introduced in the last 2-3 years. Capital gains tax, even some controversial ones like high value goods tax, low value goods tax. High value goods tax has not been introduced just yet. It's been deferred. And as well as taxation of foreign service providers in the form of digital tax. So I don't think there is going to be any new taxes in if you see it in the form of new form of taxes, other than perhaps broadening the tax base by increasing the services that might fall under service tax category. But all in all, probably new taxes, balancing that with the needs of the growing business and growth of the economy.
Now, with regards to, of course, the economic situation here in the country, I'll go to this question to our professor over here. How does the national budget actually influence the economy of our growth and stability?
Yep, so the economy is the powerhouse of the country. It shows how well the country is doing and can be doing because the budget actually fuels the economy in that sense. So from that perspective, what needs to happen is budget is a guideline. Budget provides resources. What's really important is how businesses and how the country use this budget to power the economy, ranging from ensuring that the talent pool of the country is well equipped to face the challenges like what Farah has mentioned, and also to capitalize on opportunities that might be there. I think when we hear about the wish list from the the people that was interviewed moments ago, it shows that there are a lot of enthusiasm to expand businesses, and with the budget that will be in place, I think different incentives will be there, and it's all up for the businesses to grab those opportunities, to improve themselves, because the economy is only as strong as the businesses in the country powering the economy.
Now, as we saw earlier on as well, we saw our Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, at the Ministry's office, during the Finance Ministry office over there. As we can see over here, he's heading over to the Parliament House. So that's in Putrajaya. So moments later, we'll definitely hear the tabling of Budget 2025. And as you can see, all smiles, hopefully all smiles for every one of us as well, in every single sector. Namely, of course, one of the things that probably, and I wish could be one of the budget is when it comes to artificial intelligence, technology, even data centers nowadays, all right? So, yeah, hopefully that will be part of Budget 2025. Now, as you can see over there, we will definitely give you updated on what's happening on the ground, and as well as what's going to happen in Parliament House. Now, moving on to the next question over here, Professor, still on your situation over here. What's the role on national budget play in shaping fiscal policy?
Yep. So I think the budget, gives us a signal in terms of where the country is going to go. That's really important because, the budget considers both the revenue and the costs that the country will actually incur. And of course, we actually have a debt, a country has a debt, and debt is not always bad when debt is actually being used to fund the economy and to boost it. But nevertheless, it's important that we manage the debt and to reduce the debt. I think what Prime Minister Anwar is focused on is really to actually reduce the debt that we actually have. And improve the revenue base of the country. So from that perspective, I think the budget is really important. The way I look at it is that the budget, will fund our expenditure. Of course, with certain announcements before this, like for example, when we look at the civil service, there will be, increase in salaries. I think that's going to increase the operational budget. So I'm actually quite optimistic to actually see how the budget will actually improve the revenue base of the country to enable these kind of additional costs to be covered. So from that perspective, I think the budget will improve the economy's prospects in the future, and as well as looking at the different types of revenue that can actually be done and the different costs that we have to actually manage in the long run.
It seems that there's a lot of nooks and crannies that has to be addressed as well, which brings me to the next question to Farah. When it comes to taxation as well, a lot of processes goes into it. And as you can see, we saw Budget 2025, the process of getting it done. How do you think was the process or thought process towards it? And how many people do you think are actually involved in that kind of course, policy making?
Yeah. Otto, as what Prof. Lim has mentioned earlier, there's always consideration on balancing the needs of the country and the rakyat, business community that continues to be challenged with the economic challenges as well as various needs for the business to continue to thrive. In respect of considerations and work that needs to be done to look at potential new taxes or evaluation of tax policy and reforms, a lot of thought process would have gone in, a lot of syndication, focus groups, discussions, getting inputs from the industry, from businesses, from academics, from individuals, all that. And I know there are hundreds of focus groups that range over the months. Lots of thought process that goes in, as well as looking at the development across the region, what other countries are also doing, as well as the need for the country to remain competitive. If we don't reduce our tax rate, for example, just as an example, other countries around the region might use that technique or that tactic to reduce their tax and therefore attract the FDIs. If we decide not to introduce certain type of incentive, we might be pressured because Thailand or Indonesia or Singapore might have different measures or different policy to encourage those kind of investments, because those are that is what's needed for the country. But all in all, I think we need to look at what is the requirement for us as a country, where are we heading, what are the challenges that needs to be addressed, what are the obstacles, and what are the sectors, for example, that needs to be looked at. Forward thinking as well. We have a lot of AI here, technology, digitalization, automation, all that needs to be considered. And I do hope the coming budget announcement by the PM would take into consideration all these needs for the future of the country as well.
Now, that's interesting. I'm going to delve into that answer as well with regards to the challenges, and also both from tax point of view and also in business point of view as well, on the challenges that affect the decision making in making budget 2025. So we're going to go for a little short break with, of course, our wish list for budget 2025. So let's take a look at some of the things that people have to say.
My wish list for this national budget tabled in October 2024 would be strengthening the judiciary and giving easy access to legal representation. E-courts in Sabah and Sarawak and all other places, we should be having mobile courts, more district courts where public can easily access to justice through this means. If you get access to legal representation, your human rights will also be seen. I think that this government will make sure that we are moving as a nation towards a developing country. We'll be able to channel some grant towards this or help to contribute. Like the UK and Cambodia, the government gives a substantial amount to the legal aid. I think that Malaysia will, as a fast-moving country, we will also be looking at this kind of avenues, and we will follow suit.
My wish for the budget, government will continue with the support and incentive for the EV business in Malaysia.
Let's face it, in today's reality, application is key. We are now living in an application world. Everything revolves around internet and apps. We cannot go by without our mobile phones. So our government itself also have this vision to ensure that Malaysia becomes the Asia digital tiger. Thus, it is very important to have budget on cyber threats to ensure that we are fully protected on cyber crimes. ECG is also very important. I applaud organisation that has actually thought about EV charging and actually reducing the use of plastics. Having said that, I feel enforcement should be key in terms of curbing the rubbish, because I feel that wherever you walk over the street, there are rubbish everywhere. So environment is key, and thus I feel government should actually look into this seriously. As a Malaysian, I really hope that the government look into our wish list and ask to bring a better digital world to Malaysia and to make Malaysia great.
The national budget presented each year is certainly directly related to the country's economic growth. And Malaysia has experienced extraordinary economic growth, and the people have reaped the benefits from the results of development. Looking at the highlights from the year 1957 to the present, from 1960 to 1970, the country's economy at that time was based on commodities, and there was a transition from the agricultural sector and the emergence of the industrial sector. 1970 saw the establishment of Petronas and the emergence of the manufacturing sector based on FDI. In 1980, the emergence of an export-oriented manufacturing economy took place until the Asian financial crisis occurred in 1998. After the Asian financial crisis in 1998, Malaysia's growth trajectory declined and continued to plummet, resulting in a stunted development path. Despite the planning for national development, Malaysia still faces various challenges. Among them, we are facing low growth, a decline in investment, a decrease in trade revenue, low wages, and issues of poverty. This is actually evidenced by several key figures for the Malaysian economy. The decline in governance. The Corruption Perception Index shows approximately 29 in the year 1998, increased to 61 in 2023. The percentage of trade to GDP is as follows. Approximately 220% in the year 2000, down to 141% in 2022. Let us also look at the low female labor force participation rate in 2021. Women, 55.5%. Men, approximately 80.9%. The issue of the accumulated national debt is as follows. Expenditure exceeds revenue, more than 60% of the country's GDP. The decline in competitiveness at the global level. In 1997, in the 14th position, 2023 rising to the 27th position. Malaysia cannot continue to be on this declining economic trajectory. We not only need to do things better, but we also need to do better things and do them continuously. Past approaches may no longer be relevant in the present. Therefore, the government needs to do things differently and adopt a new economic narrative. Under the administration of the Madani government, led by Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, the framework for the Madani economy has been formulated and presented. Madani economy. Empowering the people has provided a framework for building Malaysia's greatness. This includes raising the ceiling, which involves restructuring the economy to achieve higher targets towards making Malaysia a leader in the Asian economy. At the same time, to raise the floor, which means to elevate the status and living standards of the people. This strategy is built on the values of Madani and requires a whole of Malaysia approach to succeed. The people, the government, and the industry need to work together to embody the spirit of unity, practice good governance, while being supported by collaborative and agile public service delivery.
Well, welcome back to a special program for Budget 2025. I'm Otto Othman, and with me in the studio today, of course, we have our two special guests in the studio. We have Professor Lim Weng Mak, Dean and Distinguished Professor from Sunway Business School, Sunway University, as well as Farah Rosli, Malaysia Tax Leader of Ernst & Young Tax Consultant Sindh Berhad. Thank you once again. Now, as we saw earlier on the little capsule over there, we've been through a lot as Malaysians. One of the things that piqued my interest is comes to spending priorities. So which goes down to my question for Professor, right? When it comes to spending priorities, what are the key factors that should determine a government's spending on priorities in the national budget?
Right. So I think when we look at some of the statistics that was presented just now, it says that the debt has increased, and our competitiveness as a country seems to be lost over the years. But nevertheless, I think what's important is to also look at some of the reasons of why that actually happened. If we look at in recent years, the government of Malaysia has been very concerned and has focused attention on the rakyat because we actually went through a very difficult situation, especially with the pandemic. And sometimes when you look at geopolitical tensions that are out there, where other countries may increase the interest rate, and that also it has an impact on our economy as well. So from that perspective, I think the government was focusing on cushioning the challenges that are out there, so that the rakyat do not face, would not be negatively impacted by these challenges out there that much. But now, I think, with the strengthening of the ringgit and with the opportunities that are opening up, I think now is the right time where Malaysia can be on the path of trajectory. And I think as we have seen how the ringgit has strengthened tremendously within the recent weeks, I'm quite optimistic to know that the upcoming budget, hopefully there will be a lot of investments in the area that will help the economy to boost, especially in terms of businesses. I think we have heard from the aspirations from the various business leaders moments ago that with the support that have been requested, they're actually enthusiastic to actually expand businesses not just within the country but also outside the country. So with that, when the businesses actually grow, especially local businesses, I think the economy will also grow, and that's where Malaysia will rise again. And I think, when we look at the rise, I believe that it will not be a slow rise, it will be a very, very rapid rise, because I think the Prime Minister Anwar has shown that he is able to actually turn the tables over into something that's very rapid, when the decision has actually been made, as seen through the Malaysian ringgit.
That's another issue over there. Our Prime Minister is definitely a very forward person as well, but not many people share the same situation as him as well, or characteristics as well. There might be some risks as well when it comes to opening up a business and seeing whether the business is successful or not. Wouldn't that pose a risk to the government as well when giving out loans on special businesses? And so what is your take on that?
That's right. So I think when you look at the budget, the budget has allocation for various stages of businesses, whether it's from a startup or whether it's from a scale-up. So when you look at scale-ups, where businesses have been operating for a very long run and now they want to actually go overseas, I think they have proven themselves that they are able to expand their businesses, not just in one geographical location in Malaysia, but across the entire Malaysia. So from that perspective, there is a track record to show that these businesses are able to scale up, and that actually reduces the risk when supporting these businesses to actually go abroad and expand their international business. And if we look at it, we actually have a Ministry of International Trade that has the experience to help these businesses to succeed, right? So they are not starting from scratch, they're actually coming with resources, not just in terms of capital, but also in terms of experience. Whereas for those that are just starting up, I think we have a lot of incubators now, we have a lot of, enterprises that are actually being supported by various incubators. So from that perspective, startups themselves are able to, not make the mistakes that others have made. And if they made any mistakes, it will be new mistakes, but they have the ecosystem to actually succeed. So from that perspective, I think when businesses collaborate, not just among themselves, but with the agencies that actually have this knowledge and expertise, they will reduce their risk of any failure and actually increases their chances for success. So I think the thing that we have to focus on is the resources that are really available, be it monetary or non-monetary, and use that to the advantage to reduce the risk and increase the chances of success.
Thank you very much for that. Now, Farah Rosli, as a Malaysia tax leader, all right, it seems that we have lots of opportunities out there and lots of businesses are going to open up, potentially, hopefully. How does it impact the taxation structure here in Malaysia?
So in terms of taxes, of course, it's broken to two. One is ensuring that businesses continue to comply with the tax requirements, ranging from the usual registration, making sure that each taxpayer has their own tax identification number, and all those requirements that is required under the Lembaga Hasil Dalam Negeri Malaysia. The second part is to make sure that businesses know and they are educated in terms of how do they compute the taxes. Are there any incentives, as what Prof. Lee mentioned earlier, that will be available for businesses to enjoy if they're doing exports, for example, and now probably importation of goods and exports, depending on what is the foreign exchange, will be beneficial. There are also special incentives for exports or increase in exports. On top of that, if the businesses decide to actually set up a new business in Malaysia, whether it is a hub setup or whether they have decided to intensify their capital expenditure and invest in actually acquiring new machineries or new automation equipment, there are tax benefits that will be available to the businesses. So in times of challenging environment where businesses are struggling, cash flows, pressure on the businesses, it's important for taxpayers or businesses to be aware of what is available for them. And nowadays, tax is very transparent. Unlike 25 years ago when I first started, there is not much information. In fact, you can ask Melissa down there on how do you compute your own taxes, and AI will be able to actually answer. People like me hopefully will not be redundant, but with the kind of technology and the kind of automation that we have and AI, tremendous opportunities, and really hope then that that will also make tax transparent, easy to apply, and I would say that is the feature of a modern tax system.
Now, based on that, how you said it, for taxation being transparent, of course, our Prime Minister is more focused as well on the services that's being provided, the accuracy, the efficiency as well. Do you think the efficiency now has differed differently from before? And how do you think our Malaysian society accepts it, and how are they going to apply it? Do you think the perception has changed so far?
In terms of application of your tax knowledge, yes, tremendously. There has been a lot of information in the websites, a lot of education program that has been introduced by the government, by the relevant authorities, whether it is the income tax department or whether it is the customs department. A lot of information out there, and I would say that perhaps it's a bit of an information overload, even for a person who does tax day in, day out. There are a lot of information out there. But what is important is also to know what is applicable to you and to leverage of that information and to ensure then that we spoke about businesses being competitive and need to continue to remain, to stay afloat in the times when there's challenges facing the economy. Based on the statistics that was shown earlier, Malaysia competitiveness has dropped. I did mention earlier, we need to continue to remain competitive, not just from a foreign direct investment perspective, but also in encouraging domestic direct investment, both ways. So awareness of the availability of tax benefits, awareness and ensuring that businesses comply with the tax requirements will be important, because otherwise there will be penalty on one side if you don't comply. On the other side, businesses will lose out because it's all done on voluntarily basis. No one is going to come and tell you that you've missed your incentive auto. So you need to make sure then that you are able to claim, and that knowledge will be very important.
Now, aside from that, Farah, I'd like to move into a different section over here. When it comes to international tax agreements, right? How do international tax agreements actually influence budget's revenue plan?
Yeah. So I'd like to take a step back on international tax development. If you look at the trend, tax trend over the last couple of years, I can break it into probably four key trends. One is a race to reduce corporate tax rate. Countries are becoming very competitive in actually trying to reduce the tax rate, but it became stagnated post-COVID. During COVID, countries are struggling, governments are struggling, trying to increase revenue because there were so many stimulus packages, not just Malaysia, but everywhere in the world. So reducing tax rate and stagnant tax rate the last 3-4 years. The second trend, I would say, is the emergence of new type of taxes. And these new taxes are in the form of sustainability initiatives, carbon taxes, plastic taxes, sin tax. The rate has been increasing. The third is, as what you've said, international tax developments. And with the international tax developments, there are pressure for all countries in the world to ensure then that they take cognizance of those developments and ensure that it is being applied in the country. And the fourth, I would say, is digitalization of tax administration. So tax administration, they know what you're doing. They know where you've gone. They know what you're buying. Because they have analytics, and they are just like we are using AI. The tax authorities around the world are also using AI, and with that, they are able to exchange information. So I go back to your point on international tax development, which is also part of the trend that we are seeing, and it's going to stay. It's going to expand further. And Malaysia, we are going to embark. There is already a legislation on it, on the global minimum tax from 1/1/2025. So companies or multinationals will need to ensure then that at the end of the day, everyone will be paying a minimum tax of 15%. I just put it simply, but tax incentives, there will be a challenge on actually looking at tax incentives and how do you balance that? You have tax incentives that zeroize your tax, but at the same time, you have to ensure then that there is a minimum tax. Otherwise, there is a top-up tax that will be imposed on businesses.
I think we shall focus on also taxation, because a lot of things are happening as well. I think there are going to be some added taxations as well in the budget 2025. We'll discuss further on that in just a bit. But of course, we're going to go for a little short break. You're looking at, of course, a special program entitled Budget 2025, where we bring you the latest updates as well, and also give you the live feed of our Prime Minister tabling the 2025 budget in Parliament pretty soon. So we'll get into that in just a bit. We're going to go for a little short break and, of course, take a look at how our rakyat, or how our people, are actually wishing the budget 2025 can shape their lives. Let's take a look.
We have seen many talents leaving Malaysia to go to other ASEAN or other foreign countries. I hope there are certain initiatives from the government, and hopefully in budget 2025 we can attract back all these talents back to Malaysia. And when it comes to talent crunch, it's all rooted down to our education system as well. And hopefully our education system aligns to the transformation of the market needs moving forward in the next 15, 20 or 30 years.
My wish list is for our personal tax relief to be increased to reflect the current cost of living. And then number two, I would hope that more budgets and funds are allocated to our public healthcare facilities and our government hospitals, namely for our professionals, our doctors, our nurses, our specialists compensated fairly, as well as to address the overcrowding in the government hospitals. As I understand that 70% of us Malaysians are accessing our public healthcare facilities.
We allocate funds for educational supports because you see, as a graduate, as a fresh graduates, I saw how students have to bear their own expenses for doing their assessments and everything. Secondly, I really hope this National Budget 2025 can improve in terms of the career development programs, because we need to prepare youth with all the soft skills and trainings even before they embarking in the working life. And last but not least, I really hope, as I'm really sure all people aware about the striking issues of mental health among the youth, therefore I hope National Budget 2025 will try to think of something to cater this problem as soon as possible, because I really hope this government can protect youth externally and internally, which is physically and mentally. So that's all I hope for National Budget 2025 for a better Malaysian future.
My wish
Malaysia put more focus in terms of technology, mainly in terms of cybersecurity and AI. So with cybersecurity, I hope we increase in the investment for cybersecurity so we can protect current assets that we have in our border in terms of the system and also the sensitive data. And with cybersecurity and AI integration together, we can achieve a more resilient system security so that we can protect even more, utilize AI to enhance, to put our cybersecurity. So to achieve this, I hope government will put more incentive in terms of public sector and private sector partnership, so that both can drive towards a more innovation in the country, and also provides a clear regulation for ethical AI usage for our technology.
The people of Malaysia have heard about the Madani economy that the government aspires to implement. But to what extent can the Madani economy mission change the landscape of growth in Malaysia? I will simplify the understanding by focusing on the key elements in driving structural reforms outlined through the Madani economy. Here are the 7 main points that are currently the focus of the government, encompassing economic growth, fiscal sustainability, competitiveness, and regionalization. Good governance, inclusive development, meaningful wage employment, and the equality of opportunities available. The implementation includes 2 key elements. First, the public sector reform will strengthen and accelerate the delivery of services through more agile project monitoring and implementation. Secondly, the whole of Malaysia approach focuses on empowering the people through collaboration among all parties, including the citizens, the government, and the industry. So what are the goals that the government wants to achieve? All right, there are 7 key and important elements that will be realized. First, Malaysia needs to be positioned among the 30 largest economies in the world. Secondly, the goal is to be among the top 12 in the world in global competitiveness. Thirdly, the goal is to rank among the top 25 in the Malaysia Development Index. The fourth is to increase the share of workers' income to 45%. The fifth goal is to rank among the top 25 in the Corruption Perception Index. Additionally, towards fiscal sustainability, the target is a fiscal deficit of 3% or better growth. And seventh, regarding the target for the participation rate of women in the workforce to reach 60% in total. As a result, upon closer examination, the trajectory of the Madani economy encompasses targets within a medium-term time frame across different aspects, guided by global benchmarks for the economy and global competitiveness, quality of life, inclusiveness of the workforce, combating corruption, and fiscal sustainability. Therefore, it is important for us as Malaysians to understand that the term Madani economy is not just about economic growth, but also about building a prosperous and competitive society. For whom and for what purpose? For all of us, every citizen of Malaysia, with the commitment of all parties, may we succeed in realizing this vision. For a brighter future that can also benefit future generations, in order to ensure and secure the well-being of all our descendants.
Welcome back to a special program called Budget 2025. The tabling, of course, we will give you the live feed of what's happening from time to time. And as you saw early on, I do believe that our Prime Minister is already at the Parliament House. So we're just waiting for that moment where he will be tabling the Budget 2025. And of course, you're tuning to this program where we have two special guests in the studio and one mini-bot AI, which we will introduce later on as well. In the studios today, we have Professor Lim Weng Mark, Dean and Distinguished Professor from Sunway Business School, Sunway University, as well as Farah Rosli, a Malaysian tax leader from Ernst & Young Tax Consultants, Sdn Bhd. Now, we were talking early on, particularly when it comes to skills, and as we saw early on, based on the capsule that we've just seen, Malaysia has a lot of ambitions, and it seems that it's a bit much in my own perspective. But in your take, when it comes to upskilling our Malaysian citizens into something much more bigger than what they are right now, what is your take on that? Let's start with Farah.
Yeah. Yes, we have got a lot of ambition, Otto, but those are very good ambitions that we need to move forward to continue to be a dynamic country and continue to remain competitive. And as you have rightfully said, Otto, one of the most important is people and manpower, and ensuring then that the manpower that we have are future ready for the needs of the future of the industry, and we are seeing a lot of new developments happening centering around knowledge and centering around new form of businesses or new form of technology or new types of businesses that was not in existence just as short as 5 years ago. If you look at robotics, for example, do we have the right skill sets to provide support to industries or businesses that require automation or the use of robots? And that ranges not just from if you talk about machinery or you talk about equipments, that also includes services that support the maintenance and repair of those automation equipment for the businesses. At the same time, even when you talk about knowledge or professional services, people like myself, am I ready to actually provide support and advice to industries of the future? And if we do not continue to do this, we will be left behind. And that's why you can see, and I hope this will continue to be announced in the next couple of minutes, that there will continue to be incentive or grants or even deductions or reliefs that will continue to be granted for upskilling of manpower, upskilling of resources, as mentioned earlier in the skit, in the slots. In the video just now, I was trying to find the right word, Otto. In the video just now, we have been losing people to our neighbouring countries, and I, for once, feel that. And we want to continue to retain the right talent, the right skill, and continue to equip them and continue to provide them with the challenges to be ready to face the industry of the future.
Now, Professor, with that, to go upon Farah's explanation just now, do you think the big chunk of the budget 2025 will go to upskilling our people as well, our community?
Yep, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope a big chunk will actually go into education and also reskilling as well. Because I think, like what Farah has mentioned, I think knowledge is really important. Knowledge. Now we are living in a knowledge economy. I think with automation, with AI coming in, all the new age technologies, and some people will be fearing for the jobs. Will robots actually be taking over the future? But I think more importantly is to think about how, as workers or even entrepreneurs in the economy, how can we actually create value? And to create value, we really need to actually have knowledge. I think when we look at other factors that's coming in, like for example, when it comes to minimum wage, when it comes to increasing the income of households, this all means that the salary will have to increase sooner or later. And from a business perspective, this is additional cost. I think when you actually increase the salary, that is an increase in your cost month to month, all right? It will never go down. Things that goes up will never come down. No one will say that, boss, I'm going to reduce my salary. No one will say that. Everybody will be asking more. So what's important here is education and training. Why? Because with more knowledge, you're able to create more opportunities, not just for yourself, but also for the businesses that you are employed with, right? So as your company grows, and if you're able to add value to that, I'm quite sure that employers will be willing to pay because their business are actually growing. So from that perspective, knowledge and training becomes very, very important. When the budget is announced, shortly after this, hopefully let's look at what type of training budget, education budget will be provided. But one thing that I think businesses should also know is that the importance for their own staff to actually improve their knowledge, to go for new training and upskilling themselves. And currently we have the HRDC funds that companies contribute every year, and that kind of money I think should be actually used to upskill workers so that they are actually prepared for the future. Sometimes the question is, are you using that kind of budget? You're already paying for that, right? The HRDC funds that you're actually doing. But are you actually using it? And if you're using it, are you using it in the right way, right? Are you using it for team building, or are you using it to send your staff for a course so that they get a new certification, they upskill themselves, when upskill themselves, they're able to create new value, and therefore the business will grow. So I think from that perspective, it's also looking at what opportunities that are already there, what avenues and mechanisms that are there, and are we using it to the best of our advantage?
So expanding on that as well, education plays a very important role. So do you think the next source of income should be going to education as well? Because culture is also, aside from knowledge, culture as well, and habits actually develops a person. So do you think that we're able to comprehend such information and able to accept upskilling in the near future or in the budget 2025, education especially?
Right. So I think from a budget perspective, we always see that the large chunk of the budget will always go into a couple of industries. I think healthcare is one, education is another one. So I'm quite sure that that the investment in education will be there. But nevertheless, I think investment from the private sector into education is also really important. Because again, like what I've mentioned, is that with knowledge, you're able to create value. And if businesses want to expand, I think they need to actually ensure that their workers are, employees are actually competent enough and, have the right skills to help businesses expand and realize the dream that they actually want. It's not an easy world out there. It's not just in Malaysia, it's actually the world, right? If we really, really want to expand the economy, then we really need to be actually doing more exporting. More countries should be buying for us, because if we are just thinking about internal consumption, we only can grow so much. But if you're thinking about the world, then yes, we are able to actually grow much more. And certain trends that we need to know is not just the local trends, but also international trends as well. Things like ESG, for example. In Malaysia, this is something that is upcoming. Currently, is limited to companies in the public, in their public listed. But if you look at if you want to expand your business to Europe, you will realize that ESG is mandatory over there. If you want to participate in the supply chain, you must also be able to show your ESG report and to show that you are actually minimizing your outcomes on the environment and in society as well, in terms of the negative impacts. So from that perspective, you really need a kind of knowledge, and to gain the kind of knowledge is to actually ensure that the workforce that is powering the business and the economy are actually knowledgeable to be able to leverage on these opportunities that are out there.
Now, climate change, you did mention about carbon emission and technology. And the next thing I would like to ask, when it comes to technology, do you think another big chunk of that budget 2025 will be going to technology? Since that we have, as you saw, the video is made actually generated by AI. Things kind of, it's kind of impressive though. Me being a video editor as well, I'm looking at it and it's like, wow, it's kind of amazing. The technology that we have and upskilling our employees, our people into this new genre, I would say, of technology is impressive. Now, when it comes to technology, wouldn't that actually, what kind of incentive or what kind of budget do you think, or chunk of amount do you think will budget 2025 tackle or give in terms of technology? Let's start with the professor.
Yep. So I think the investment into the areas where knowledge is applied is really important, right? Reason being is very simple, right? We have seen brain drain occurring, right? So the phenomenon of brain drain is where, employees are knowledgeable, we are knowledgeable, but the jobs are not available, right? So because of that, increasing knowledge is not just enough. With knowledge, you actually can internationalize, you actually can create more value. But what's more equally important is to invest in the industries where knowledge needs to be applied. So this means the high-tech industries, the green industries needs to actually have enough funds for them to be to propel themselves upwards so that they are able to create more jobs in the industry, so that the graduates and people who are trained in the industry will have jobs locally and they don't actually go abroad, right? Because when you actually do that locally, then Malaysia can actually be a leader in that area. I think many countries are already being a leader in that area, and Malaysia has a track record of being a leader. Like, for example, when you look at USB, where did USB actually come from? It came from Malaysia, right? So the kind of technology that we have can also be world-renowned in that sense. So I think the challenge for us is how can we now lead in the different areas of technology and energy, and I think investment in these sectors are really important, especially when you are already investing in education to upskill people in these areas. I think the industry itself should also receive the investment so that they are able to boost themselves, create more jobs, and together the industry as well as the people will prosper.
Thank you very much, Professor, for that very detailed explanation as well. And as you saw earlier on, we're still waiting for the tabling of the budget 2024. As you saw as well, everybody has been seated, and all smiles I saw earlier on, as you can see right now, all smiles. One of the things that I like to actually pick on is see who is smiling the most. Then you can see, okay, I'm sure he's going to get the most chunk of the budget 2025. Aside from that, of course, we will give you the live feed, and we'll be with you all the way till the very end, until our Prime Minister is done with the budget 2025. Now, as it is, this is a special program brought to you here in RTM, where we discuss about budget 2025 in a more detailed and professional manner. Now, Farah, still, can you expound on that as well when it comes to technology and education as well?
Yeah, I concur with what Prof. Lim has said. 2023, we spent close to 13 billion on research on education, and 14 billion in 2024. So I would expect, with all this new advancement in technology, that number will just continue to increase. But what is important, I would say, would be two-pronged. One is to really understand what is needed for the country. And what is needed for the country will go back to the requirements of the industry, as well as the future needs and where things are progressing in the future. If you look at data centers, for example, what sort of skill sets will be required for data centers? Cybersecurity? Would that be software engineering?
Could be software.
Or are we talking about probably programmers, or people who are very good with data programming as well, and analytics. So the word computer science is a bit ancient now. No one talks about computer science. I mean, it is still a programming university, probably, but you see a whole string of new programs now that has been introduced that was not even there. No one would think that or understood that 5 years ago. The second bit would be having the right skills developed out of Malaysian. And how do we get there? understanding the requirements of the industry, understanding the future needs of the country and what is happening internationally, we need to ensure then that we have Malaysians who are ready to pick up with this challenge and continue to be reskill and upskill in this line and this new requirement of the country and the industry also.
Now, as you can see, we have a little feed over there from Parliament. Prime Minister, Honourable Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim is heading towards Parliament House, and in moments later, we'll definitely hear our Prime Minister table the 2025 budget. Now, I'm feeling kind of nervous as well, where the big chunk of money will definitely go into, in what sector, in what industry. I'm banking definitely on education as well, and technology and AI, especially when it comes to reducing the carbon footprint here in Malaysia. And that's one thing I think we can expound on as well when it comes to the taxation. Some countries are implementing taxation on the amount of carbon emission that a certain industry is emanating. But of course, we'll definitely keep update on what's happening right now. Now, as you can see, our Prime Minister is being ushered into the Parliament House right now. And what do you think is going on through his mind right now, Farah?
How much more we are going to spend?
How much more we're going to spend?
And how much more revenue can the government collect? The tax collection has increased double since 2020 to 2024. And most of it is going to corporate tax. So and petroleum income tax has increased from 2020 to 2021, maybe because of the price per barrel has increased, but it has reduced or stagnated in the recent years. So huge pressure on tax revenue collection. So that could probably be one of the things in his mind.
All right, Professor, what about you, Professor? Do you think a big chunk of it also will definitely go into business sectors, SMEs, help out the industry? Do you think that will take a big chunk or probably just a small chunk of it?
I think, I do not see a big difference in terms of the allocation, in terms of the percentage-wise, but I would think that there will be something for everyone in the industry, regardless of sectors.
And as you can see right now, it takes a long time, an exercise apparently, to get into the Parliament House right now. At least we have the visual for you to actually gaze into what's actually happening. As you can see, he's showing off the budget 2025 in his hand. So I'm excited as well to see what he has in store for us. And like last year's budget, it took, how long did it take? About two hours to actually table the entire 2024 budget. So I'm just eager to know how long will this take as well. The amount of budget that has been used, the efforts that has been put into, especially from everybody who's involved in this, the amount of time that has been used as well to actually come up with the budget, the process that we've seen early on. And the things that probably we have not seen has been shown as well. So there we go. Exciting day today, and of course, if you're just tuning in right now, we are currently live in the studios with two special guests here today. We're talking about Budget 2025. We're going to give you the feed in just a moment as well. Any updates as well, we will definitely keep you updated as well. Yeah. In the meantime, of course, we'll move on to the next question today when it comes to Budget 2025. Now that education we've touched on, we talked about taxation as well. Now, what do you think would be the future of Malaysia when it comes to 2025 budget? What do you think will be the future of it?
Yeah.
Farah.
A lot has been spoke about digitalization, new ways where businesses have morphed in the last few years. The other bit I would like to talk about would be sustainability. That is the in thing, ESG, and the three components: environmental, social, and governance. The other bit that we should be cognizant of would be, I've mentioned earlier, what would be the growth sector that we should be looking at and continue to ensure then that we are ahead of the curve or riding that wave. Certainly we do not want to be behind in that because it is very competitive. We don't take up something that is required by the world globally. Someone else will take it up. At one time we were talking about aerospace industry, you know, and there were also conversations in terms of new industry sector such as renewable energy. So I think we should continue to invest in all those sectors.
Renewable energy. Now, Professor, as well, when it comes to this, the future that you see in the next 4 years or 5 years, what do you think?
Yeah, I think besides the hype that we see in terms of energy, sustainability, technology, I believe that the future really relies on the people. Currently, there are many people in Malaysia, especially I think in the rural areas and the suburban, sub-rural areas, that really want to do more. They really want to participate in the economy. I think as we have seen the statistics previously, women participation, is slightly more than half, and that can actually increase. In my own research and my research teams, when we look at single mothers, when we look at women in rural communities and even other marginalized communities like refugees and so on, we realize that there is so much eagerness to actually participate in the economy, but they just could not find the opportunity to do so. With that, I think much more can actually be done to bring more people into the economy to increase the labor force participation. And the other thing is that the civil economy is very important because we are moving into an aging nation, which means that more older adults will be there. But hey, my view is that older adults, yes, they can actually retire, they can take a step back, but I think in order to live a very dignified life, I think they actually have to participate in the economy as well and give back using their experience.
All right. Thank you very much, Professor, for that explanation. We'll move on to, of course, the Parliament House right now, as the Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, is tabling the Budget 2025 right now. So let's take a look.